Hey guys, welcome back. It's your girl Carter Me Elisa. Y'all already know it's the At Length Pod. Of course, I'm back with another wonderful guest, and I'm gonna let him go ahead and introduce himself.
What's going on, everyone? My name's Howie. I'm from Mount Vernon, New York. I'm a bit of a creative, multifaceted. I do a bunch of different things, from music to like the arts to like fashion to just pretty much like everything in the creative space. I'm just here. I love art. I love the vibe. So yeah, I'm happy to be on the podcast.
And we're happy to have you. And don't
Thank
listen
you.
to him, y'all. He's downplaying himself, but we're gonna dive into it so y'all can really see what he's really about, right?
Let's get
So
it.
let's jump into these questions. You mentioned that you're from Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways did the community you grew up in mold you?
That's interesting. So the community molded me because Mount Vernon, if people know it, it's a very like artsy place. Like in every sense of art. Like there's a lot of like creative arts that go on in Mount Vernon from like to your music, of course. Like you have like a lot of music legends that have come from Mount Vernon. Of course, you got your Heavy D's to the Pete Rocks. You have actors that have come from here. I mean, there's even moguls that I aspire to be like Diddy. That I mean, he's from Mount Vernon. People may not say he's from Mount Vernon, or sometimes he might not say he's from Mount Vernon, but he's from Mount Vernon. Um, then you got like fashion gurus, like you have your damn like your Groovy Loos and like just people that have been heavy into like culture and arts. So
Mm-hmm.
Mount Vernon definitely helped mold me into like who I am today. It showed me early on, like because Mount Vernon, we're close enough to the city where you get a little taste of like the fast life. So I mean, it showed me all the arts. It showed me like all the cool like fashion and the fire music that like was coming out in the streets. So I always aspired to be a part of like culture, and Mount Vernon helped mold that.
That's awesome. Mount Vernon definitely is a place with plenty of the arts. Money
Right,
earning Mount Vernon. If you don't
money
know, now you
earning.
know. Y'all gonna put some respect on us, okay? And we're
Uh
not
huh.
upstate New York, like he said. We are close to the city. So, how did you get introduced to music?
I got introduced to music at an early age, honestly, but I didn't. I was introduced to music because I always loved music, and I have a lot of people in my family who have always been involved in music. Like, I have a cousin of mine who's like a multi-platinum like producer. He was a part of Bad Boys Hitman. So just like seeing that when I was younger, like he created a whole bunch of different records. He worked for everybody from Bad Boy, from uh, well, he worked with Diddy, he worked with Mace, he worked with Biggie, he's worked with like the likes of Jay Z, he's worked with Mary J, like he's worked with
Mm-hmm.
everybody. So that helped influence me. Then like you have Pete Rock, like he's not directly related to me, but through like everyone growing like my family, like my parents growing up in Mount Vernon,
Mm-hmm.
they were really close to his family, and like we call each other cousins. So just seeing that when I was growing up, that heavily influenced me. And then just like being like right next to the city, like 30 minutes away from the city, like Mount Vernon touches the Bronx, so you get a taste of like everything that's new, that's popping, coming out of like the city, and you hear all the newest music. You see all the latest fashion. So like it was just a bit of that, and that's really what inspired me to get into music. And then as
Mm-hmm.
I grew older, like I knew people who made music, so it just happened organically.
That's awesome. So you touched on just like music being a part of you basically your whole life. What made you decide to go into like the managerial side of it rather than trying to be maybe like a rapper yourself or being the producer? What made you pick that role in the industry?
Um, because I'm not a rapper. Like I don't have that talent. And like I've always known that about myself. I've always wanted to be a part of music, but I knew I couldn't make music myself.
Mhm.
And when I kind of got into music, I didn't really know that I was going to be a manager. Like I kind of was just hanging around musical spaces, and I had some like really close friends who did some really dope things in the musical space, and I was just like, "Yo, what y'all up to?" Like I want to come to the studio with y'all. I just want to kick it with y'all. And then that naturally like turned into me like just picking up on things in the studio. Like I was a fly on the wall every time I was in the studio. I was like learning, like I was of course trying to help my friends who were making the music, but I was really paying attention to like what the engineer's job was, or like what the intern's job was, like how they helped in the process of making music, and just everybody outside of the actual artist, what they contributed to an artist to actually making a record. Um, and yeah, that just kind of, once I figured out what everybody else did and that there were other jobs involved in music other than being an artist, I kind of started exploring those lanes and seeing like where I could make my fit in the industry or what I could do. And let me not say that, because at first I didn't really know that I wanted to even be in the industry. I was just like taking a look at like other careers involved in music, and from there it just naturally happened. Like that's a hard question for me to answer, because it came about naturally. Like I knew people that made good music. I watched the process that it took them to make those records, and I found the fit. Like I saw that I was able to answer the questions that a manager was able to answer, and then it naturally led me into being managing people.
Okay. So, in my personal opinion, I think you're doing pretty well as a manager. What would you
Thank you.
say? You're welcome. What would you say, or how would you say you got really exposed to the managerial skills? So, I know you were touching on being a fly on the wall and everything, but what made you feel confident that you could manage an artist or help an artist get placements?
Um, Honestly, so I like, and I don't say this often, but like other people look at me differently than I look at myself. And I still don't necessarily see myself as like, yo, I'm a manager, but manager things have been happening lately. So like I have to come to terms that I'm actually someone's manager, or I actually manage people. But it was really just like having to answer those questions. Like things were happening. I was paying attention and I was being a fly on the wall, just like seeing how the business operated, like the transactions in the studio, like people paying for studio time and stuff like that. And it just, one thing led to another. It just happened that I was locking in with certain artists. Bro, could you book the studio for me today? I wanna block at this studio, or whatever the case may be. Or do you know any fire studios around your way that you could book? Or like, yo, bro, I noticed that you fuck with this producer or this person or that person. Like, yo, could you help me get in the studio with them? And it was just a natural progression. Like it just naturally, just one thing led to another. And I mean, I just started like doing managerial things. And then it really solidified itself when like people started getting those placements, and then they were like, yo, bro, I don't know what the hell this contract says. Like, can you read this? Can you figure out what it's about? And in school, I actually went to school for criminal justice, which at the college that I went to, that's the closest undergraduate program that we have to law. So I was previewed, and I kind of knew how to read contracts to a certain extent. I didn't know how to go through them in detail, but I understood what the general jargon said. So I was going through people's contracts at first, and that all helped shape me into like becoming someone's manager.
And led the way to a great path that you're on. So, how many
Thank
artists
you.
do you manage, would you say?
Right now I work on about four management teams. And right now I'm directly managing a producer, and I work with a bunch of other producers. There are a bunch of people that like, hit me from time to time, like, yo, I want you to manage me, or I want you to do this for me or that for me. But the way I like to work with people is like build a relationship first. Like I want the relationship to lead into the business, because even though people say you should keep like relationship and business separate, I feel like
Yeah.
if we both don't have the same goal to get you to where you want to be, and I don't see you going there, it doesn't even make sense for me to get involved in like helping you with your career in the first place. So I like a natural relationship to build, and then for us to get kind of into like working together in a management or a managee position. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
right word to use, but
I
like, yeah,
understand. That makes sense. And that keeps things integral. Sometimes you hear these stories and it's basically because there was no relationship, right? So
yeah,
you have different views, an artist has one view and a manager might have a different view, but because there's no relationship, they're not able to talk through it, and one feels slighted or like the other one didn't do their job full out when that's not necessarily
right.
the case. So I think that that's great that you're finding ways to keep your integrity. Would you be
Yeah, and
able to
I've
elaborate? Oh,
seen,
go ahead.
so my fault. I've seen that
No,
like
you good.
firsthand. I've seen like artists actually sign to a manager and then them have like ill feelings about that manager later down the road, and they felt like other people that they've worked with in the past have done more for them, and the manager's not actually doing what they said they were going to do when they entered into the contract. And I've also seen just like people jump out the window and meet like a manager who they feel like could get them from point A to point B, and they don't have that relationship, and they just kind of get into like a contract, or they try to get into a contract, and either that person curves them because A, they don't have that relationship, or B, they get into that contract and then once again they're upset about it. So I mean, it happens, it's all a part of the business, but that's usually what I tell people like when they're on their path to finding who they want to be their manager, is just like really get to know that person first.
It's super smart and great advice. So, all y'all listening, trying to figure out what to do, this is how you start. What
Right.
is a management team and how do they work?
A management team is basically just, it could be pretty much anything that is anything outside of the creative. So you put people that all have like a like-minded vision on your management team. So you find, well, the way it's always worked for me is you put a bunch of people who have like a like-minded vision on a team, and you give them positions. Like one person's strength might be their actual like business manager, the other person's strength might be their day-to-day manager because they have a good relationship with the person. They're the person that even when the artist or the producer's in a bad mood, they could just talk to them, help them get on track, or like they travel around with them to shows and stuff like that. Then you might have somebody who's like a marketing whiz that's like kind of on the management team, and they come up with like a lot of conceptual things, and like it might be social media strategy and things like that. Then you might have other people who are on the creative side, but they're not making the actual music. It could be videographers, photographers, anything like that. But it's basically just anyone behind the scenes who's not the actual like star, that's like kind of handling that person's business.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, do you recall who the first person that you managed was or that you
Uh,
helped?
the first person that I managed, honestly, it's the person that I manage now, the producer that I manage now, Dizzy Banco. That's like, and that relationship goes way deeper than like the music and stuff like that. That's really my brother. But he's really the first person who like believed in me. He was the first person like, yo, bro, like I kind of need help with this music stuff. Like, what could you do for me? Can you help me? Can you figure things out? And we just started working from there. And then pretty much working with Diz, I basically met like a lot of my other clients that I started managing and working on their management teams and stuff like
So, you just made my job easy and you
that.
brought up Dizzy. So, let's talk about the placements that he has and just your relationship with him and how that formed. You said it goes deeper than the music. How did
Right.
it start, right? You said that's your bro. So, where did it begin?
Damn, me and Diz. So me and Diz locked in, I'd say about like 10, 11 years ago. It was right before I went away to school. Actually, yeah. So it was right when I was like graduating high school, going away to college. It was like that summer, New York City summers, Uptown Bronx summers, Mount Vernon summers. They're like crazy. This is from the
Wow.
Bronx. I'm from Mount Vernon, but we had a like a mutual best friend. His name was Delano. It's kind of weird. It gets a little dicey because he's no longer like either of our like best friends. I mean, I'm still kind of cool with him. I don't know about him and Diz's relationship, but we met through Delano. It was at a point where I was personally finding myself, so I found myself like uptown in the Bronx every day. Um, I don't want to say running the streets, but I was just like outside having fun, living
Mingling.
life,
Yeah.
like kid, being a teenager, and me and Diz, we met that way. And then from there, we formed a relationship. Like that summer, we went through a lot of things together that like built our relationship closer and closer. But after that, it got kind of interesting because I went away to college and Diz kind of stayed home. So our relationship still kind of stood, but it didn't strengthen. It got a little weaker over the time. But let's fast forward 4 years, 4 or 5 years from then. I'd say like 4.5 years from then, when I
Mm-hmm.
was basically like graduating college. I came back home and I was like thinking about like what I wanted to do in life. And it was so strange that I was on a path to becoming like an entertainment lawyer or whatever, because I have a my godmother, she's a huge entertainment lawyer in Atlanta, and she was kind of
Wow.
inspiration for me. So I wanted to almost be like her and follow down her route. um and I was just thinking like everything that I was doing, that I was like focusing my energy around, it was always leading me back to music. Like it was like all the interviews that I would watch, like everything on YouTube that I would watch, it was like either music videos or it would be like people's interviews of how they got their start in the industry. Um, I was going to like I said, the studio a bunch. I was just finding like a fit in like New York
Right.
City's music culture, like upcoming music culture, and you know, I had hit Diz up at that point, like, yo, bro, like I know what I could do for you. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, yo, I'm gonna be his manager off rip.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Oh, you gonna be my manager?" And I was like, "Oh, damn!" Like he kind of just shot me down. But like over time, like we still locked in because that was my man's. Like he was playing, but
Yeah.
he was serious, but he was playing at the same time. Because at that point, he didn't have a manager. And we locked in on the music tip. We started working with like a bunch of upcoming artists, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when I got my first real experience into the like industry, or not even just the industry, but the recording process. So we had locked in with one of the first artists that I actually managed. His name is Jet Gang Zay. Young Zay is his actual artist name, but a lot of people know him as Jet Gang Zay. He was an up and coming artist from the Bronx, or he still is. And like he was very notable in the Bronx. Like so, when I met Zay, he had like a following of like probably like 12 or 13K on the gram, but he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really super locked into music. Like people just knew him because he was young, he was getting money, he was hustling and stuff like that. But we started building like a relationship and a working relationship, and he would do like what I thought at the time was normal. He would book out like 10 or 12 hour blocks in the studio, and we would just be in the studio from like 9 p.m. to like 9 a.m., or it'd be like 6 p.m. to whatever time in the morning. And it would
Right.
just be like crazy, like these crazy hours in which I thought this was normal. I thought everybody did this at the time. And I mean, it obviously wasn't normal, but we locked in like that, and we created a bunch of music, and we created some of his best music at the time, and Diz had produced all of it. So we were all together through that process, and that naturally built my relationship with Zay, and that turned into me managing like the second person I've started managing, and it,
Mm-hmm.
it taught me a lot. So yeah,
Well, that's great because you can't always trust everybody, and it's hard sometimes to get your foot in the door. So you had a wonderful platform, and what you and Diz are doing is amazing.
thank
Did
you.
you set goals for what would come next for you and Diz, or you and your artist?
So I'm very big on setting goals. So like last year I set goals for me and Diz, and last year was my first year that I was really, I mean, I was managing people before, but I was like, I had full control. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
set these goals. I mean, even though they were unrealistic to some degree, it made me work really hard. And even though we fell short of those outrageous goals, we still got like a lot of work done, which laid the foundation for this year. So
Mm-hmm.
this year I set way more realistic goals, and it's almost shaping up that like I'm gonna exceed my goals this year with how like these, I don't know, we're in like the 11th or 12th day of the year now.
Yeah.
It's looking like we're gonna exceed those goals in like maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I'm gonna keep shooting for like what my last year goals were.
To
So
me,
yeah.
goals are so important. Like I feel like every foundation, every skill set can benefit from goals, whether it's business or personal. I think that goals just they keep you on track, and obviously sometimes you have to adjust based on the outlying factors, right? Like COVID and things of that nature. But goals just kind of help you push the bar. So it's great that you have them and that you're able to kind of reset and pivot back, right? If you accomplish the goals in 2 to 3 months, that's phenomenal, especially because then you can backtrack and be like, all right, now we're going to come back to this and we're
Right.
going to do them. So
We're
you
gonna set a
said
new
you,
bar.
exactly. You said you
So
think you're going to reach these
before you
goals.
go on, my goal for the year that I had was to get 15 blue check placements, and to like accumulate a certain amount of money by selling beats. And we're definitely gonna crush those goals. But out in
Period.
where my next year goal, like I got mad news today, like which was crazy. I feel like everything happens in a snowball effect because like when one good thing happens in like the industry, and I've noticed that like since we started like locking in placements, like one good thing happens and then it usually either happens in threes or it just keeps snowballing. But so I've got word about like four big placements like in the past 2 days. But
Congrats.
thank you. I wanted to know about you. Do you have any goals for the podcast, and what are those goals?
I do have goals for the podcast. The starting goal is I need to be sustaining about 10,000 views,
Okay,
and 10,000 subscribers. That's the starting point. So I'm gonna push, 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 and market, 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 market.
right.
Ultimately, I have no fear of reaching out to anybody. A closed mouth can't get fed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to reach out to people that I feel like inspire, motivate, and uplift myself, but also have the power to inspire, motivate, and uplift someone else. When I was growing up, I really wanted to do what I'm doing right now, which is being in front of a camera, talking, having conversations, everything. But because it was so new while we were kids and children and everything, all the adults in my life are like, you're going to get kidnapped. We're going to get, run down on. It's a no for
Kidnap.
me. And
What?
it was so weird because like they would get me things like there was like a flip camera that had a USB. And then I couldn't use it because they didn't want me posting nothing. So I didn't understand. So that's why this is so important, like what we're doing right now, because there's someone out there that thinks that they can't do it or shouldn't do it because it's not normal or
Right.
because they don't know where to start. And so I
Mm-hmm.
want this to help people know where to start. Know that it's okay not to be normal. Know that it's okay if you don't have the best quality. Quality comes with time and research and everything like that. The quality is you applying yourself. So that's my initial goals.
I mean,
And
you in
the most
4K now,
important,
so you got great quality going
it took
on.
some time to get here. It took some time to get here. But also just to launch within the next 2 weeks, which is happening. So I've already met those goals and I've reached out to some really important people like yourself, and pretty much everyone has said yes. So
Okay,
it's
that's
really
dope.
great. So thanks for
Congratulations. Congratulations
hitting
on
me with
all
that.
those
Thank
goals.
you.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil, like you said, you feel me? So you got to put your voice out there and let it be heard. And just so you know, we're going to keep pushing you and help you get your platform up to all the goals that you're trying to reach. So
Thank you. I
you got you.
appreciate the support.
Got to support
I
the
really
homies.
do.
Got to support the homies.
That's that.
Right.
Everybody don't know. Like you gotta support doesn't really cost anything. It's so easy to like, comment, share. And
Facts.
people think that you have to, sometimes you don't have the funds, but like, commenting, and sharing goes a long way. So, y'all heard
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, comment, share on this. Like, comment, share on
And
anything that you
subscribe.
see,
It's going to be somewhere at the bottom.
and subscribe. And anything where you see, what's Dizzy's hashtag? I forgot.
At Dizzy Benko. At Dizzy
Dizzy
Benko.
Benko. And his hashtag is like Diz on the beat or whatever. So whenever you
Oh,
hear his
Dizzy
tag,
violated.
did you violate it? Y'all better go ahead,
Facts.
replay it, like it, all that. You
Right.
said something though that caught my interest. So I want to
Okay.
know if I'm thinking the right thing. What is a blue check placement?
So I mean, that's not really a formal term. That's just something I came up with. But like artists that
Trademark
actually have blue
it.
check. Yeah, I mean, we might as well. But artists that have blue checks like on the gram or they verified, just because like we sell beats to pretty much anyone. Like we have certain beats that we keep on like an online catalog, and people could just go on there and purchase them. So those are like a lot of those are like your everyday artists, your like upcoming artists who might be your best friend's cousin, sister's boyfriend that just wants to rap, or like just somebody who decides like this is something for them and they want to give it a try. We have those beats online and we sell them to everybody. And like we
Mm-hmm.
sell those beats like water. Like if I check the account right now, we probably sold at least like 15, 20 of those today. Which I was having conversations with like some of the homies. That's not necessarily normal. It takes like a lot of people like marketing and like just getting their name out there a lot to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do that. But Diz has created like a buzz just being like from the Bronx. He like grew his following from the street. He tapped in with like all the up and coming artists from the Bronx, and like he kind
Right.
of got his name up in New York City. So like a lot of people check for him on that online catalog. We use BeatStars, and to date, his BeatStars has about 850,000 plays, and we have mad sales up there. Which we did all of
Dang.
that in a year. Um, like people don't do that. I think right now we have like 52 beats up there or something like that. So those are crazy numbers, but we just looking to keep growing that. And the blue check placements are just like verified artists. So like right now or today we had like Meek Mill. He previewed a record that Diz produced on his Instagram story. Um, and I mean, I was talking to like his manager today and stuff like that. God willing, that actually comes out. But I fingers crossed. But
We
there's
touch and
like,
agree.
yeah, it's likely for it to come out. So and we flirted with like the idea of records coming out with Meek before. Like we almost had a
Mm-hmm.
record on his previous album, Championships.
Mm-hmm.
And like I negotiated that down to like the day before it came out, and it just so happened that they chose another record over our record. But I mean, fast forward to now, he just kind of put something out on his Instagram story. So hopefully that comes out. We got a record that Don Q put out today. Well, he didn't put the actual record out, but he previewed it, and we have a really good record with Don. So I mean, a really good relationship with Don. We have about like 15, 20 records in the tuck with Don Q. And he's trying to heat back up, come back out even stronger than he
Right.
did when he first came out. Um, who else? Who else? Just like artists that we have relationships with, and even artists we don't have relationships with. Like we've had like, so the thing is, when these records get recorded, a lot of the times they get sent back to me. So we've had unreleased records with like Lil Tecca, Lil TJ, of course, like some of the homies like Dream Doll,
Mm-hmm.
um, just like people in the industry. So basically, 15 blue check placements, 15 verified artists who have like uh big followings, so that we can help grow ourselves.
Exactly. Makes perfect sense. That's what I was thinking, but I just had to make sure it wasn't like some other term and, I go off the deep end. So, backtracking a little bit, you mentioned Meek passing on a record or his label or however that process goes. So, when they
hmm
pass on a record or a beat or however you would claim it, what happens to it? The song
Um, so
and the beat.
honestly, the song nothing happens with the song at all. The
Mm-hmm.
song just never gets put out. Sometimes we'll try to like keep it in the tuck just in case one day he does put it out. But if
Mm-hmm.
time like if it gets too long or whatever the case may be, we'll probably just put that record out for sale or whatever the case may be. Like we'll throw that beat up on BeatStars and just sell it.
Got it. And there's nothing that can happen negatively if you do put it back out since they passed on it. Is that correct? Or
Nah, nothing could happen. There was no contractual agreement that was signed that said this is theirs exclusively and they paid for it. So yeah.
okay. All right. So you have multiple people that you manage, some artists, and then there's Dizzy, the producer. So as a manager of a producer, what responsibility falls on you versus maybe
Um,
him and someone else?
so a manager of a producer, producers are a lot less high maintenance. They don't care to be the superstars.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more chill. Like every producer I've ever worked with has just been cool. As a manager, I
Mm-hmm.
put anybody who I manage pretty much in front of like anything that I have to do. They have my attention at the drop of a dime. So if they call me, like I'm always on call. And I mean, working with a producer, it's a lot less like, yo, I need you right now. Like, yo, my world is like crashing down and I just need your full on attention 24/7. It's like, yo, bro, I'm gonna work on this today. I'm gonna send it over to you. We could send out, we could like see if you could set up some sessions. I need this, I need that. And then I might not hear from them for a day, or I might not hear from them for 3 days, or whatever it is. Like me and Diz talk every day, but other producers that I've worked with, I might not hear from them as frequently. So I mean,
Got
it's
it.
it's a lot more laid back.
So do you prefer to manage producers over artists, or do you not have a preference?
I love working with producers, to be honest. Producers over artists any day for me personally, because I'm a busy person myself. It's very hard for me to like coddle someone and make sure that they're like the shining star. Like producers, they play the back role a lot more, so it's just like an easier and healthier working relationship to me. And you
I
don't have
could
to be in the
get
studio.
that.
Or yeah,
You still have some time to yourself and time to kind of
yeah,
do personal things rather than it being work, 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 work.
right, exactly.
I get that. How much time passed from the time you started working together until the first piece of real income you all received?
Um, I mean, well, so it depends what we're like classifying like or categorizing real income. Because like I said, like this sells beats online like water. So even though for some people like they're like, oh, selling beats online isn't like a real income, like Diz makes an actual like salary just off of selling beats online.
That's
So
dope.
I mean, yeah. So that's to me that's real income. So I mean, till we got to that point, it was just like it really just was from the point where I started working with Diz until he made me like his actual manager. Like as soon as he made me his actual manager, we pretty much started seeing real. Well, I started seeing real income.
Because of the beats being on
Yeah,
online.
yeah,
Okay.
and then like there were placements here and there and stuff like that. Like Diz has a bunch of like placements out there.
Okay. Makes sense. So we're going to talk about some streams and what may have
Okay.
you. So Rap Caviar, Spotify, right? How does playlisting benefit a producer?
I mean, playlisting benefits anybody who makes the music. So I like when people talk about like a song that comes out, like 50% of the song is the artist's song, and then the other 50% is the producer's song, or however that breaks down. If there's two artists like sure on it, like it might get split a little, produce it, or maybe three co-produce it, then like things get split a little differently. But generally, half the record is for the artist, and then the other half is for the producer. So if we get playlists and stuff like that, it only helps the streams go up, and it benefits all parties.
Can it hurt at all, like the playlist aspect of it, or no?
Nah, not really. I mean, it could only really hurt like maybe an upcoming artist that's paying like they're paying for the playlist and stuff like that, or like an artist that's signed to like a label, and the label in their marketing budget is like, I mean, people don't like to say they pay for playlists, but like if they pay for a playlist or something like that, and it's not getting the streams, or the streams don't make them back the money that they paid for it, that's the only way it could really hurt.
Got it. So, in the topic and the livelihood of streaming, right? The new day and age is the subscriptions, right? So, like the Tidal, the Apple Music, Spotify, etc., and
Hmm.
so on and so forth, right? There's been plenty of debate around it. Do you feel like it's helping or hurting artists?
Um, I mean, it's so. Are you saying is like streaming hurt helping or hurting artists versus like physical like albums?
Like the subscription aspect, right? Because when you have a subscription, you have pretty much unlimited access to
Right.
any music that's on that platform versus
Okay.
having to go out and buy the actual album. So does that help the artist or hurt the artist?
So it to me it does neither. It so right now that's kind of a hard question to like answer, just because when you buy a project on any of those streaming services, like you get 150 streams per song, versus like when you listen to it, you only get one stream per song off of a subscription based platform. But a lot of people have those subscription based platforms, so they can continually listen to those records like time after
Right.
time again. Like those records are now put on playlists and stuff like that. So it's like I don't really know the right or wrong answer to that question. I feel like over time, I mean, subscription-based streaming is going nowhere. So there are like music collectives that are trying to make it more fair for the upcoming artists or the established artists at that, and the producer as well. Like you have people like the MLC, which
Mm-hmm.
is the Music Licensing Collective, that are stepping in and making it more fair for the artist or producer to be able to collect streams off of, or royalties off of their streams. So, I mean, neither of them. So, personally, I don't think that subscription based streaming hurts the producer or artist.
You touched on a lot. So I appreciate you breaking that down because I didn't know anything
No
about the
problem.
MLC.
Yeah.
And I've seen plenty of debates go on between the streaming versus, how it used to be, and then the subscriptions getting thrown in the loop.
Hmm.
I think personally it's beneficial for people to just understand the breakdown that you just gave, right? One stream versus buying the album being 150, right? So a lot of people don't realize that. And I think once they are aware of it, if there's an awareness, then it will be less of a controversy surrounding it. So I
Right.
appreciate you breaking that down.
No
If
problem.
there was anything you could change, what would you change about the streaming services?
Anything that I could change about the streaming services is the the algorithm in which like people show up on the recommended list. Like sometimes um, records for whatever reason don't pop up
Yeah.
on like when you go to like on a Friday at 12 a.m. or whatever the music releases. When you go to that like hip hop category, because I delve in hip hop. When you go to the hip hop category and you try to look for whatever you're searching for, and you just go to the recommended list, a lot of the times like an artist's music might not be there at that time. So I mean, just like making that algorithm a little more fair, or like having people show up on that little recommended site is definitely something I'd change.
I never even thought about it like that. Usually when you hear algorithm, people are just talking about regular social media like Instagram, YouTube, etc. Right? But I didn't realize that algorithm played a role in, when music releases. So
Yeah.
how how can an artist help their chances of their algorithm being better on a streaming platform for when they have a new release? Or is there nothing that they can do about it?
There's not much they could do about it. Just like getting their streams up. So honestly, there are things that artists can do, which is just figuring out the business side of things and getting your metadata together and like submitting your music the right way, and like um people being able to like, if you're able, if people could search you and find you the right way, then and they're searching other people that are kind of similar to you, like you'll begin to pop up in like a recommended type algorithm and stuff like that, like on like Spotify, where sometimes you do have like recommended artists and stuff like that.
Would you like to
It's
see it in Oh, go ahead.
nah, that's it.
Would you like to see it in like a chronological order type of thing, like first come first serve? Whoever gets their song up first at 12 o'clock, that's who makes the playlist at the top of the playlist, or the new music list?
Nah, I wouldn't, just because there's a bunch of people submitting music on Fridays, and I don't want to filter through all of that. But I don't know
That could
how
get
they'll.
crazy.
Yeah, that'd be too crazy. But I don't know how they'll fix that eventually. But hopefully, they do make it fair for like other artists and not just these big name artists.
I would love to see that as well. You said metadata. Can you explain what that is for those who may not know?
Metadata is very complicated. That's hard to explain, but it's basically just the information behind the actual record itself, which is like in your metadata, it goes like the artists who are actually a part of the record, the time of the actual recording of the record, um, There's like label stuff that goes into it. So like the
Mm-hmm.
label that it's associated with, the actual like people on the record, so the artists, the producers, real names, their performer names, uh, their IPI and CAE, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically like any artist or producer's like social security number. It basically is the number that you get when you register your music to any performing rights organization, um, that is linked directly to you. And when you register a record, you need to register it with your IPI or CAE, just so that it makes sure that the record is being registered to you and those streams actually go to you. You have just like all the background information that goes into a
That goes
record, and
into
that
the
a lot
record.
of that's on the business side.
Understood. Thank you for breaking that down.
No
Let's
problem.
talk about some placements.
Okay.
So, with this, right, there was Lil Wayne, Jewels, Dave East, Offset, Partisan, Pop Smoke. How did these collaborations come about?
Um, they all just happen like naturally and organically. Like Diz, he's from the Bronx, New York. Like I said, he was making a lot of noise in the streets. But then he moved up to Newburgh, New York. So the collaboration between Party and Diz came because Party is from Newburgh. Diz was up there and he was working, making noise up there, and then they naturally just made a record together. And then Party just kind of threw Offset on it, and it became Take It Down. It was a pretty big record for us. Uh, the Lil Wayne and Joel's situation happened because Diz is from the Bronx. He was working, mad music coming out. Els is from Harlem, and he heard like the beats Diz was putting out, and he was like, "Yo, send me some shit." And we just sent him some stuff over, and Bloody Mary happened. We got a bunch of records with Joel's, a lot of stuff in the tuck. I don't know if it'll ever come out. Hopefully it does, but Dave East the same thing. East is from Harlem. This is from the Bronx. Word of mouth through the streets. It just happened. Same thing with like Dream Doll. So a lot of our relationships just happen organically because we working through the streets. Um, I may know somebody and like I'll pull some strings like, yo, we need to get in the studio with this person. And it's getting easier and easier as this name gets bigger. Same thing with Pop Smoke. It was just like Pop was up and coming at the time. Diz was from the Bronx, up and coming. They were like DMing on Instagram. They met a couple of times. Pop did a show up in Newburgh, and Diz and Pop met then. And then, they eventually just worked on some records, and that became one of the biggest records we've done to date. Uh, our record Mood Swing that just went double platinum for me. So, featuring Little TJ too. So, these things have just happened organically for us, and we just praying for more success.
So you talk about it being organic and getting his name up in the streets over the years. What did that process of building look like as far as being able to like make the noise that you said he was making and get the attention? What kind of groundwork was being put in to help those beats kind of get more attention and people really see the value in the beats that he was making?
So the groundwork that it took was Diz used to hang out by Eden Wall, from White Pill by Eden Wall. So a lot of those local rappers used to jump on his records, and then that started spreading across the board uptown. Then we kind of started like people started hearing the sound like downtown in the Bronx. So we started doing a lot of records with like Nah Bugs and like Snoopy De Niro that are like more so in the South Bronx. And then just like different people started hearing the music. So it required like a lot of like mileage, a lot of gas. Us just like picking up, getting on the road, like yo, oh you fuck with our beats, you hot from over here. We're gonna come over here and let's like lock into the studio and let's make some records.
Smart.
And then we grew from because that's not the traditional producers like route, but we grew
No.
from just the Bronx to Harlem to we've done stuff with people in Brooklyn. We just started growing all over New York and like traveling all over. Like a lot of the miles on my car are just from like really putting in groundwork, like going to the studio wherever. Like right after this interview, I'm going downtown to the studio. You feel me? Like just putting in putting in work, grinding, like hitting the studio, and making good music.
You make time for what you want to make time for, and if it's worth it, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get there one way, shape, or the other. Invest in yourself, all that. That's important. So shout out to
Hmm.
y'all for going across the state to get it done. You touched on the biggest record to date and going platinum, right? So outside of it being just a confirmation that what you're doing is working, how important of an achievement is this business wise?
It's important for so many different reasons because at times there's been times where it's just like, yo, bro, honestly, we putting in all this mileage on the road, we doing all of this, like, yo, like I don't know about this, bro. We gotta hang it up. Like this is we putting in like a lot of work and we not really seeing results. But at the same time, I should have never been thinking like that because we've always been seeing results. We've always been in the streets doing records, but that achievement helped me on mad different levels, just like personally. Um, it helped show like my family and friends who thought I was crazy for being in the studio like 24/7 because there's times where like I've been like I'll never forget there's literally times when I've been in the studio with Diz and Dave East and like I've been downtown in New York City somewhere about 42nd in a studio until like 7 in the morning. I leave the studio smelling like a pound of weed, come back to my crib, shower, and then go straight to work. My 9 to 5 job. Uh, that was confirmation for like a lot of people to show them like, yo, okay, Howie's actually doing something productive, and this isn't just like a hobby. He's actually like doing something
Right.
serious with this. That helped me business wise because it helped people see like, okay, this is actually working. He has a platinum record on under his belt, and it gave me leverage to pitch him to different people and for people to come to us like, yo, y'all are doing some shit. We want to work with y'all. So it helped in
Right.
mad different ways.
Thank you for that. So y'all know it don't matter what people are calling y'all crazy. In due time, it will pay off.
100%.
So we're gonna segue into some education talk, right?
Okay.
You have an MBA. Can you
Yes, I
explain
do.
what that is for anyone who may not know what it is?
I have my master's in business association. It's just like my MBA gave me so much background in business. It helped me just understand like running a business on a large scale, which translated into me running a business on a smaller scale, which is like what I want to create my business for like all the producers that I work with and the artists that I work with. It just helped me gain like a lot of business acumen. And I got my MBA because I was going to school, like I said, for criminal justice. And I realized I didn't want to do anything law based. So I had to go back to school for business to learn like another skill. I didn't have to go
Right.
back to school, but it helped give my family that confirmation that like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I could actually have a 6 figure job, and yeah, I mean, I got my MBA from LIU. Super dope experience. It taught me a lot. And yeah.
So some people argue about education and what it can do. How has your secondary education benefited you in your personal career? And do you feel like it's necessary for people to do?
So I feel like it's benefited me a lot in my music career just because it taught me a lot about business. It showed me like all the different aspects of business and like it helped me like tremendously with like reading contracts and just knowing when somebody's trying to get over me. I don't think it's necessary because I feel like real life experience is better than having a piece of paper that says you can do a job. If you can actually be put into a situation and do that job and gain experience from it, it's way more beneficial in my from my point of view. But I do know that when I get to a bigger level and I'm trying to work at these bigger companies and corporations, my MBA is definitely going to help me out and take me far.
I agree.
Thank you.
Everybody doesn't need a degree. However, You got to know you got to know yourself and the type of person you are, your resources, and exactly what you're trying to do. Because there are some fields that you just can't get into without it, but there are others that you can. But if you're gonna go that route, you better be ready to put in the groundwork, put in them mileages, like you was
Right.
talking about. Do you feel like your MBA prepared you adequately for the business of music? I know you say you learned a lot about business as far as, big businesses and then being able to apply it to small, but do you feel like that prepared you for what you were going to encounter musically? Because some people say the music world is its own monster.
Not at all. The music world is its own monster. Like business administration definitely helped me with like the admin side of like the metadata and stuff like that, and it helped me learn how to put those things together and like help me with like Excel skills and just certain organizational skills. But it didn't prepare me for the beast that the music industry actually is. It moves in real time. People are very cutthroat. There's no allegiance or like alliance or even like honor in a lot of people that will try to get over on you, and if they can, they'll definitely take advantage of you. Um, you never get what you're worth. You only get what you negotiate. Um, yeah, music business is definitely crazy, but I mean, in some ways, my MBA did help me, but I feel like even if I didn't have my MBA and I just went into it with like real experience, I would have been fine. Like I would have figured it out. I feel like the type of person that you are helps you get through this industry.
Well, y'all heard it here first. The music industry is its own monster, y'all. So that degree can only take you but so far, in our opinion. So, getting a little bit personal, but still on the topic of education, if you will. Are you a part of a fraternity?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a part of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Joining my fraternity is one of the greatest decisions I ever made in my life, and that has helped me tremendously with going into the music industry.
And why do you say that?
Joining my fraternity, it helped me develop a lot of skills that I use to this day. It helped me develop like the tenacity, the thick skin. Just helped me sharpen like a lot of the skills that I have, and it made me never take no for an answer. Like I'll always find a way. Um, so at first it kind of hindered me a bit until I really figured out exactly what I wanted to do in the industry, because joining my fraternity, I always had to figure it out and figure out a way to make things happen. So I always used to, no matter what was presented to me on the table, I would try to figure it out. So if somebody came to me like, yo, bro, I think we need to figure out some marketing things, I'll be like, yo, don't worry. We don't need to hire anybody that's involved in marketing. I'll figure it out. Or like, yo, we need X, Y, and Z. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And my fraternity helped me a lot with that. But I had to take a step back from just being the person who kind of knew how to do everything and focus on one thing and just hire
Right.
people for other things. So, but my fraternity helped me a lot in just this whole business.
That's a good perspective to have. So I want to know, still on the topic of fraternity, was joining like the movies? Because, the movies are extremely intense, and I personally am not a part of a sorority, and I didn't get the privilege to have that option in my path. So I want to know what it's like joining in the movies.
Alpha Alpha is a non-hazing fraternity, so it's nothing like what you see in the movies. Uh, I mean, everybody's experience is different. Um, and some people have a much more abbreviated experience in joining a fraternity than others. But no matter how a person came into my fraternity, because I can only really speak about my fraternity, but no matter how
Right.
someone came into my fraternity, they definitely had to go through some sort of experience, and they had to learn a lot about the history of our fraternity and the great history of our fraternity, going back to 1906, and like what those seven men that founded our fraternity went through at those times, and like the thick skin that they needed to have being that we are the first Black intercollegiate fraternity in the world, and what they endured going through everything that they went through on a PWI all white school at the time, with them being like seven of the only minorities on that campus.
Well, I'm glad that you got to, bob and weave on the hazing. But it's good to have some insight on, that every fraternity or sorority is not the same. So do your research, kiddos, before you join one. Let's talk
Right.
about art and inspiration.
Okay.
I've seen you share a few of photos of you attending different art galleries, exhibits, museums. How long have you had an affinity for art?
I've always loved art. I've loved art from the time I was a little kid, because my godfathers, who were both also alpha men, they used to be heavy into art, and they used to take me to like art galleries when I was younger. Like since I was like I'd say like 5 or 6 years old, I always remember around the time of my birthday, which is in November, my godfather used to take me downtown. He used to always, and these are some of my fondest memories. He always used to take me to the bookstore. We used to spend the day together. We used to go to the bookstore. Depending on if it was before or after my birthday, like it might have been a little earlier in the year, but we used to go to like the New York City Marathon or whatever like was happening in the city at that time, and we used to go to like these art exhibits and art galleries, and he was heavy into like a lot of spoken word and stuff like that, so he used to take me to things in Harlem, and they were just good experiences.
That's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So, art has been a part of your life, similar to music, right?
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite artist right now? If so, why?
My favorite artist is Keith Haring. I just like how he depicted a lot of controversial times in like history. He spoke on like a lot of the things going on in New York City at the time. Like I don't know if you've ever driven by 125th and you've seen that big on the handball court, like that big mural that says like crack is whack.
Yeah.
That's like a Keith Haring mural, if you will. He did like a lot of stuff in the New York City subways, just like talking about like um, things that were happening at the time, like violence, like AIDS, just like a lot of like things that happened in New York City history. And I like a lot of his work. It's super dope.
It's dope that you were able to just talk about Keith Haring. I hope I said that correctly, and how it's impacted you and what your viewpoint of it has been. So, again, thank you for sharing that. You talked
Of
about
course.
Pixar's Soul on Twitter, and I really, really loved the movie, but I want to hear about your take on it.
Soul was just it was super dope. It was super deep. I feel like it was a a Pixar movie for adults. Like I feel like it
Yeah.
really showed like somebody that really just like thought they knew everything in life, and really showed them like there's much more to life than just like what you think you're interested in, to really like live life every day with a purpose, and it showed basically like somebody else falling in love with just like life and like finding their purpose. I feel like it was really like about people finding their purpose in life, and it really hit. Like I felt like it was a deep movie. uh yeah, and I feel like it showed like so many different emotions. Like it showed like life, it showed love, it showed like just like all of these things in one movie. It was super dope.
I
I
definitely
like how they
agree
put that together.
that I definitely agree. It for sure was like a movie for adults, and the wording that you gave to it. I also loved the dynamic of an encounter. As you know, I'm spiritual. So And my personal belief as a single individual, I believe that each person has an encounter, right? That makes them like fully resolved in their beliefs, and they work through it in that encounter. Maybe it's an accomplishment, right? They have to get that accomplishment, and that's their encounter, and they realize all that they travailed through was the encounter, right? Maybe they are just like, oh my God, my life sucks. And then they fall into the hole like he did, right? And so them just doing that, I know they called it the great beyond and whatever, and that's neither here nor there, but just that depiction of it, like the before creation and the after creation. Like I just thought that was so, to me, I was super emotional just about that aspect that it brought that spirituality to it. So I thought it was super dope as well. Um, so we're gonna double back to the music scene, and we're
Okay.
gonna talk about New York hip hop music. How would you do this? How would you describe the sound of New York right now?
The sound of New York right now, I feel like the playing field is open. I feel like there traditionally used to be a New York sound, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's so many new up and coming people from New York that a lot of people have either heard or they're just now hearing and getting hip to that are making like these different sounds. I feel like the playing field is wide open for like a set concrete sound to come through and kind of like just shift what New York sounds like to date. I feel like New York will never go back to like that old gritty. I mean, there's people still out here making that type of rap like Griselda, but I feel like it's kind of time for the upcomers to come through and like shine.
Mm-hmm.
Like A Boogie kind of came through and brought like a new sound, and then you had a bunch of people that were like coming up after A Boogie that were kind of like mimicking that sound in a sense. Like you have like your
Yeah.
little TJs, you have like the Jay Guapos, then you got like right now you got like up and comers like Stunna Gambino, and all of them are super dope. Like they all make great music. And I just feel like nobody really knows what New York sound is right now, but I feel like in the next like year or so we'll kind of figure it out. Like
It's in the process of evolution right now.
yeah.
Do you like where it's going, or are you like,
So I personally love it. I like I listen to like a lot of chill rap. I listen to like a lot of pain. Like I listen to a lot of people that tell their stories and get super vulnerable in their music. And
mm-hmm.
like I like that. Like I like the whole singing melodic kind of vibe. So I like the direction that it's going in. I like what people are making. I like the things people are talking about because to me it's super relatable. Either I'm going through it or I've been through it. So I
Yeah.
encourage people to keep making that music. Like it's super dope. Like the kids love it.
So you feel like it's going in the direction of being relatable and like just super, um, I don't want to say intimate per se, but just very vulnerable and expressing oneself
I
in
do.
that
And I
way.
feel like there's somebody out there for everybody. So like of course there's the music that I like listening to, but like there's other kids who might not want something as relatable, even though that's like what kind of the majority is making right now. And they might want to
Mm-hmm.
listen to like a little Tekka or they might want to listen to like somebody else. I don't know who else is. I do know a bunch of people who are out there, but like there's somebody out there making music for everybody right now in New York.
Would you say it's good, worse, or better than the golden era?
I mean, I still love the golden era. So like I feel like I'm at an age where like I don't even know if it's an age thing because not all of my peers listen to what's new right now. I feel like it's just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm in music. I'm definitely hip to like what's going on in New York right now. But like the golden era was definitely something I thrived off of. Like I loved like all the music coming out of that era. Um, but I do respect the kids and what they're making now, and I feel like it's super dope and it's needed. I feel like change was definitely needed because not like the youth wins. Like the youth is always gonna
Youth
make
is the
what they
future.
like, and yeah, the youth is the future. Like they always gonna put out what they like and what they want to listen to and stuff like that. And I feel like whoever can't like get past that, like you're just gonna get left in the past. Like it is what it is. It's a new era. It's a new time.
Well, the youth is the future, and things have to change. It's inevitable. So in the process of this evolution, I hope that New York still comes out on top because that's where we belong. So
Right.
let's talk about networking. How has
Okay.
networking helped you to advance, if it helped at all?
Uh, yeah, nah, networking definitely has helped me to advance. Like just my personal relationships, and like putting myself out there and like letting people know my intentions and like what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
do. From like my network, from my fraternity to like the people I've met, like growing up, just being outside, being around, to the people I've met in this industry. I always use whatever relationship I can to like kind of further, and I try to lead with value. So any relationship that I form, I always try to let people know that I'm an asset and I have something to offer you as well. Like I'm not just trying to take something from you. Like if you need anything from me too, like I could give you something. I have resources. Like I know people, even if I'm not like in the industry that you're in. Like there's so many people that like hit me up all the time. Like, yo, bro, I see you know this person can connect me, or like I feel like just being a dot connector is like super important and valuable. So like,
King Dot, the ruler.
yeah, man, just out
Do you
here
have
making these
any
connections.
strategies?
Nah, I don't have any strategies. One thing that I can say is like I just like let a lot of my relationships happen organically. But
Mm-hmm.
my homie Dev, so a little, let's rewind a little bit, but back to the art thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
throw these huge art exhibits in New York City. I've done like two or three of them. This year was supposed to be super big for me because I had like a lot of plans. Only had a lot. This year, my first Art Basel event, and I was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do my first art exhibit on the West Coast. In California, collaborated with Adidas. It was going to be a Rockefeller inspired exhibit, and Dame Dash was supposed to help it, but those plans fell through. I had a bunch of other things that I was going to do as well in the art space, but I do all of that with my homie Dev. Um, and I'm bringing him up because I think it was like a year or two ago. He shared this movie. No, it was a TV series with me. It was
Mm-hmm.
called How to Make It in America, and it basically shows like two people going through life in New York City and like the
Mm-hmm.
value of networking and how they network. So I personally don't have any strategies. I feel like I let networking happen organically, but I feel like anybody that watches that show will pick up a lot of like networking like resources from that show, and it'll show you how to form genuine relationships.
My brother loves that show. Okay, he has made me watch it and everything, and he 100% backs that show. And my brother is a genius. I don't care what nobody says. I'm not saying it because he's my brother, because I got two other ones that I'm not calling a genius respectfully. Uh, but he is, and so it's definitely it. I remember when you had through the one event, I wasn't able to make it, but I was so upset, and it was so good. What was the exhibit that you guys did? I know you know what I'm talking.
Was it the last one? Was it the Rockefeller one?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
And I was so upset because everything fell through for me not to be able to go. But I saw like all the pictures and everything, and it was so phenomenal. And Adidas, Dame, whomever, however it fell through, whether it was due to COVID or not, that's your business. But if it was them and y'all see this, y'all missing out on a big opportunity because it's fire.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully, once this passes, we'll be able to put some stuff together.
I hope so, because those was that's the place to be, and I need to know in advance about the West Coast one because I'm trying to be there. So,
Got you.
because that's gonna be a whole vibe. So
Nah, for
y'all make sure
sure.
y'all are following to keep up with that. So you mentioned leading with value, right? Um,
Yeah.
Daily on Twitter, you start the day or at some point in the day, you just send out positive affirmations. What, why? Like what makes you do that? Why? How important are those things to you to have that affirmation and the positivity surrounding you?
So daily on Twitter, I usually say, "Thank God, good morning, be productive." That actually came from one of my best friend's grandmothers. So she passed away, and at her wake, like my best friend had basically like said that she told him that every morning when he used to stay at her house, and he used to wake up, him and his brother, and like I just added that into like my daily like kind of routine. Like I either tell that to myself. I tweet it out because I'm telling myself that, but I want other people to see it as well, so that it hopefully helps them in their day. And like even if like you're having a bad day or something, like you might like remember to like pray or like whatever. Like just make sure you thank God at the beginning of every day. Like have a good morning and be productive. Just remember those things. Definitely repeat all of those steps because they're super helpful in life. Like they help me every day. And you
They've
know,
helped me. I always see it when
thank
I
you.
need it. I always
Yeah,
see it when I need it for sure. And starting the day with God is super important. If there's nothing
for
else I
sure.
do, I get up every morning, well, every weekday. Let me not lie. I
Hmm.
don't got time for God to come for me. Every weekday at 5:30, and I pray. Even if I go back to sleep afterwards, like it's mandatory for me. So that's wonderful. Just
That's
to
what's up.
recap and kind of start to wrap things together on this conversation, would you say that artists should have manager, and if so,
Uh,
why?
so artists, producers, not even more than just artists and producers, videographers, any type of creative that has any business at hand definitely should have a manager because you shouldn't be playing both roles. You should be focused strictly on the creative side of things. So like if you have enough business at hand that it's overwhelming for you, I definitely feel like it's best for you to find a manager or find somebody that you trust that's like reliable and they're capable enough of handling your business to do things or just at least give you a hand.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So weekly on Clubhouse, you co-host a room. It's titled Producer Talk, where
Hmm.
producers come together with artists, managers, music connoisseurs, sharing industry gems. What led you to want to push the knowledge forward?
Honestly, Diz woke up one day and was like, "Yo, bro, like Clubhouse was already booming, but he was like, "Yo, bro, let's throw a room on Clubhouse. Let's just get all the homies together and like let's like help other people because there's points in which he felt like a little uninspired and he lost a little direction and he just needed like a word of somebody that he looked up to or that inspired him. uh so he was just like, yo, he knows he's that person for others, so he was like, yo, let's start a room on Clubhouse. And at first I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't think it was going to be a weekly thing, but the first one went super well. My godmother that I spoke about before, she's like a huge entertainment lawyer. Her name is Bernie Lawrence Watkins. She lives down in Atlanta. She popped into my club, and like we were on that Clubhouse for like 4 or 5 hours, just like dropping
Wow.
gems. A lot of people were able to ask her questions. Um, and it was super productive. And I remember after getting off that Clubhouse, because on Clubhouse like you have the Clubhouse screen on your phone unless you like checking your text messages or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. But I remember getting off Clubhouse and going to my DMs, and I had like 35, 36 DMs from different people like, yo, thank you for the room, or like they had questions like that may not have gotten answered that we answered earlier in the discussion, or just like people hitting me up like, yo, that was dope today, like, yo, thank you for that, like, yo, when's the next one? So me and Diz, both our DMs both look like that. So he was like, yo, bro, let's turn this into every week thing. I was like, yo, fuck it, let's do it.
That's so dope. It's important to pay things forward and just give back. And I love that you guys do it because although it's called producer talk, you guys end up dropping so many gems that kind of touch like cross genres, right? Like you guys talked about YouTube and algorithm and things of that nature. I've benefited from it myself. So I think it's really dope that y'all are doing that. It's always great to give back. And I love to see that you're doing that. So kudos to you and shout outs to Diz for also, pushing the bar with that aspect of it as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Self care. You have a pretty busy schedule, and the music industry is
Vicious.
24 hours. So,
Right.
how do you balance that hip hop lifestyle?
So I'm still finding a balance. for myself that works, because at times I do find myself overwhelmed, just
Mm-hmm.
because not only do I do so much on the music aspect or the musical front, but I'm doing so much in life in general. Like I always have things going on. So, I mean, like I just like to take like time to myself sometimes. Like at least once a month, I take pre-COVID, I used to take myself on like a little date. I used to go to Hillstone in the city. I used to
Mm-hmm.
like get this Hawaiian ribeye steak that I used to love, or that I still love. And then I used to take myself to the movies afterwards, or I used to like link up with the homies or do whatever after that. But that just used to be like my little me time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I don't get to go to Hillstone anymore, but I do something at least once a month for myself, where I might just like go to a spa, or I might just like find a way to like relax, or I might just I tend not to turn my phone off for the day, but I may run out of town. Like I might come to DC. Like I love DC. Two of my favorite people in the world, my two little cousins, they live down there. So like even just being with them helps me like detox, relax, and
Right.
chill. I get to have some family time, and then like I'll come back from a weekend, and I'll get back to the hustle and bustle of like my life and music and all of that stuff. But I just like to take some personal time at least once a month.
Very smart. And as the great psalmist Tiana Taylor once said, self love is the best love. So it's important definitely to always decompress and take care of yourself. If you don't, you'll crash and burn, and nobody wants to see that. So I love that you said you make it a point to take care of yourself some way, shape, or form, regardless of COVID monthly.
Hmm.
So that's wonderful. I just want to take the time to thank you for
Oh, of course.
coming and being on the podcast. I want to allow you this opportunity to plug yourself in, let them know where they can find you, how to connect, shout out anybody you need to shout out, being that you are a manager. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that.
Once again, my name is Howie Fuller from Mount Vernon, New York, aka King Dot the Ruler. You could find me on all socials: Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse at King Dot the Ruler. Shout out to all my guys: Diz, Hazard, Young Zay, FK47, Abstract, AAA, Beat Menace, Omar Grand, all my guys, all my producer friends. We here from Mount Vernon. We just trying to do big things.
And y'all know what it
And
is. It's your girl.
shout out to hold on, shout out to Joy, 10K subscribers, all that.
Yes, let's
So
get there. Thank you, thank you. Y'all know what's up. It's your girl Carter Me and Lisa. You can follow me everywhere at Carter Me and Lisa. It's the At Length Pod. That's where you can find us. So until next time, y'all. Peace.